Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
I want to welcome everyone to an important and a historic day in the relationship between Chicago residents, our communities, and the Chicago Police Department. I'm Alderman Harry Osterman of the 48th Ward. Today, Mayor Lightfoot will appoint the first 7 members of the Community Commission for Public Safety and Accountability. The members of the interim commission will play a critical role in listening to Chicago residents and giving a strong community voice to the important work ahead in building trust and strengthening the relationship between the Chicago Police Department and the communities that it serves. It has been a long road to get to this moment. These efforts started in the wake of the brutal shooting death of Laquan McDonald. The Department of Justice investigation and report that followed, the federal consent decree which the Chicago Police Department is under today. The Empowering Communities for Public Safety Ordinance was enacted last July following recommendations for the Police Accountability Task Force, which followed other reforms that have been enacted, including the creation of the Deputy Inspector General for Public Safety and the Office of COPA, Civilian Office of Police Accountability. But in these critical efforts, there was a need for civilian oversight and strong community voice in the direction of policing in Chicago. The ECPS ordinance was pushed forward by voices of Chicagoans and community organizations from every neighborhood that demanded a role and a strong community voice in the direction of policing and safety in our city. And I want to recognize the GAPA and CPAC coalitions and all the organizations that worked in collaboration on that ordinance. Since January of this year, the Chicago City Council, specifically a working group of aldermen, have worked to take in applications, interview candidates, and give recommendations of 14 individuals to Mayor Lightfoot for consideration for the interim commission. I want to recognize the leadership and dedication and hard work of my colleagues who worked on the passage of the ECPS ordinance in the candidate interview process. I want to thank Alderman Rod Sawyer, Alderman Sophia King, Public Safety Chairman Chris Taliaferro, Alderman Carlos Ramirez Rosa, Alderman Leslie Hairston, Alderman Samantha Nugent, former Alderman Michael Scott, Alderman Michelle Harris, Alderman Matt Martin, Alderman Vasquez, and my colleague who's here today, Alderman Emma Mitz, and many others who made sure that that passed. I want to thank specifically Mayor Lightfoot for her commitment to this reform and for enacting and empowering the interim commission on public safety here today. We thank the members of the interim commission for their leadership in taking on this important task, and we collectively lend our support to them in the critical work ahead. Lastly, starting tomorrow, Chicagoans from every police district will have the ability to run for district council. 3 people from every police district will be elected in the February and April elections to run for district council. It's important if people want to run that they check with the Chicago Board of Elections on that process. These elections will be critical in establishing this commission, the full commission, which will take effect sometime next summer. This is an important democratic next step in this reform effort. Now, I'd like to bring up the Mayor of the City of Chicago, Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
Thank you, Chairman Osterman, for that introduction. And good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to our press room. Today, as you heard, we're here to deliver on an important promise: to increase community members' participation directly into the conversation about public safety and accountability, and also to give community members additional meaningful ways to contribute to our ongoing police reform efforts. Aside from Chairman Osterman, joining me, of course, is the Community Commission for Public Safety and Accountability Executive Director Adam Gross, Deputy Mayor for Public Safety Elena Gottrich, Police Board President Guion Foreman, and others. Let me just say that, and Alderman Mitz, I forgot, sorry, Emma, I wanted to make sure that I recognized you, and the head of COPA as well. As many of you know, before I became mayor, I had the pleasure of serving as the chair of the Police Accountability Task Force and formerly as president of the Chicago Police Board. In these roles, I was always laser focused, not just on improving the Chicago Police Department from the inside, but from the outside by ensuring that community members and voices were at the table for critical decisions around accountability and oversight. And through many years of experience, I know that the most vital part of community safety is the community itself. The Police Accountability Task Force, which memorialized the need for community oversight, made clear in its report back in April of 2016. And thereafter, when we had the opportunity in that report to define specifically what that should look like, we knew then that we needed a much more robust and thorough community engagement process. So what's happened is community members led an exhaustive engagement process to fill out the contours of what that oversight would look like. And a year ago, we worked with community members and the City Council to craft an ordinance which enshrined this oversight into law. We are here today to announce the appointment of the interim commissioners for that commission, 6 of whom are with us here today. And congratulations, one and all, to each of you. If you recall, in that July 2020 event, City Council passed an ordinance which created the commission. The ordinance also created district councils, which will be elected within each police district and work to improve policing and public safety in the surrounding area. Today, together with the commission and district councils, will bring, our hope is, police officers and residents together to plan, prioritize, and build mutual trust in a district-by-district and really block-by-block basis. Strengthen the accountability system, give Chicagoans a meaningful new role in oversight, and explore and advance alternative and effective approaches to public safety. What I've said to each of these commissioners is this: you are now being handed an important trust, a trust that can easily go sideways if you don't earn it every single day. This mission that you are embarking upon as the first interim commission, not only to set up the infrastructure for how the commission itself will function, but you have the absolute ability to start your own process of restoring legitimacy to the police oversight system writ large in the city. It is a trust that can be easily lost if each of you don't step up. This can't be about individual agendas. This has got to be about the mission. And the mission is to make sure that our residents' voices are at the table, that they are heard, and that they are giving a meaningful voice to the work of this commission. There could not be anything more important. I've said this many, many times because I believe it to be true. As I said earlier, the most important steps that we can take in bringing peace, lasting peace and safety to our communities is by getting the community involved and engaged and feeling like they've got a stake, that their voices are no longer going to be ignored, that they have a role in shaping what community safety looks like, not just policing, but what community safety looks like on their block, in their neighborhood, and our city. So you have obviously a big responsibility. I know that you're all up to it. It's important that you work together as a team, and I know that you will do just that. Let me tell you a little bit about how we got to the process and how these commissioners were selected. As you know, by ordinance, we had to assure a wide range of perspectives are at the decision-making table. We ensured, as the ordinance mandated, that we had at least 2 commissioners from the south part of our city, from the west, and from the north side. That 5 commissioners have at least 5 years of experience in law, public policy, social work, community organizing, or similar fields. That 2 had to be between the ages of 18 and 26, among other requirements. Each applicant had to demonstrate their ability to work well with a range of people and be fair and objective. Over 30 people applied, as you heard from Alderman Osterman, and the City Council selected 14 of them for my review. Of those 14, I've chosen these 7. And let me tell you a little bit about the factors that went into my thinking. Along with the application requirements, it allowed us to appoint individuals who look like the residents who call our great city home, and truly have what it takes to engage with our residents in a culturally competent way about public safety and police reform, as well as create tangible solutions to the challenges that our city faces with both issues. We made a lot of progress this year. I'm happy to report that our homicides are down 15%, that our shootings are down 18%. We have only gotten there because of our strategy, our whole of government approach to engaging with our residents, particularly those who are living in the 15 most violent neighborhoods in our city. That work is absolutely crucial. That's how you build lasting peace. So, starting on September 1st, these 7 interim commissioners will play a central role in establishing goals and evaluating CPD, COPA, and the police board, and promoting community engagement and transparency. We all know how vital this work is right now in our effort to make our communities safer, which is why we've given these interim commissioners a special duty: lay the foundation for a successful commission. All eyes are going to be on you and the work that's done. We need to make sure that people feel the legitimacy of the commission by the work that you are doing. From how this body will operate to how its members are selected, it's clear that this commission is the first of its kind approach to civilian oversight in the city of Chicago. We've, of course, had various forms of civilian oversight, and they will continue, but you are the first in this form, and that is an important responsibility. So whether you're an interim or permanent, each of these commissioners will be fiduciaries of the public trust. They're residents just like you and me, and are ready and willing to serve our city, to make it all a safer and better place for all of us. I have to thank each and every one of you. I am grateful for you stepping up and for your service. I'm grateful for your patience through what was a long and rigorous interview process. But I am grateful that you said yes. And more importantly, I have every confidence that our residents will be grateful that you said yes. So with that, I'm going to welcome Adam Gross, the Executive Director of the Commission, to say a few words, and then we'll be happy to take your question. Adam?
Thank you, Mayor. I've spent most of the last 6 years working with task force chairs and aldermen and mayors and literally thousands of residents and communities across the city to create the commission and district councils. So for those of us who've been in the work so deeply and for so long, this is a great day. And it's a great day for the city. This is a giant step forward in our city's efforts to strengthen our police oversight and accountability systems and increase public safety. The community commission that is being created today and the district councils that will be elected next year will give people in communities across the city an unprecedented opportunity to help build a safer, stronger Chicago. The ordinance creating the community commission and district councils lays out a bunch of goals. By far, the most important are to increase public safety, build trust, and improve relationships between the police department and the people it serves. That's because trust and public safety are totally intertwined. In too many communities, trust is broken. And without trust, the system doesn't work. Police can't build the relationships and get the information they need to do their jobs. The commission and district councils will work in lots of different ways to build trust, and the more we build trust, the safer we'll all be. So what powers does the commission have to advance its goals? First, the commission will play a central role in selecting the police superintendent, the COPA chief administrator, and members of the police board. When there's an opening for police superintendent or on the police board, the commission will come up with a short list of candidates. The mayor will choose from the commission's list or request a new list. Once the mayor makes a choice, the city council will vote whether to confirm. That means that every police superintendent and police board member will have the support of the community commission and the mayor and the city council. The commission will have a number of tools to hold those officials accountable. For example, if the commission believes that a police superintendent or a police board member is failing, the commission can lay out what they think is wrong, hold public hearings, give the superintendent or police board member an opportunity to make their case, and then take a vote of no confidence in the official. If the commission takes a vote of no confidence, it would trigger a city council hearing and a vote. Ultimately, under state law, the mayor gets to decide what to do about the superintendent and police board members, but the mayor would be required to respond publicly to the commission's and city council's votes. The commission has full power to select the COPA chief administrator. That selection will require city council approval. That was a recommendation from the Police Accountability Task Force. The commission can also remove the COPA chief for cause, and the city council would need to vote to approve that removal. Second, the commission will set police department, COPA, and police board policy. The police department will almost certainly continue to draft most policy, but the commission will review those policies and can make changes, and the commission can also draft policy. The ordinance is very clear that this is to be a collaborative process. Where there's disagreement about policy between the police department and the commission, there's a process to build consensus and seek to resolve any differences. Ultimately, the commission can vote on the policy, and nothing will become policy without that vote. Just like with ordinances passed by the city council, the mayor can veto a commission enacted policy, and just like with ordinances passed by the city council can override a mayoral veto. There's one big limitation. The commission can't set policies covered by the police department consent decree. The consent decree already sets out rules for how those policies are made, and those rules stay in force as long as the consent decree is in place. The commission plays the same role in making policy, in setting policy for COPA and the police board. Third significant power, at the beginning of each year, the commission will set goals for the police department, COPA, and the police board. And again, that's a collaborative process engaging with the leadership of those bodies. And at the end of each year, the commission will evaluate the progress that was made towards meeting those goals. Fourth, every year the commission will review the police department budget and make recommendations about it before city council votes on the budget. The mayor still has the power to draft the budget, and the city council still has the power to vote on the budget, but there will now be this important additional check in that process. Fifth, the commission can make recommendations about ways to improve public safety and public health, including with policies and procedures and programs that don't rely as much on the police. There's a growing consensus, including among many police officers, that there's a lot of work that police departments do that could be done as well or better by other people, or in collaboration with other people. The city has already done very important work creating pilot programs that don't rely just on police officers to respond, for example, to people in mental health crisis. The commission can play an important role in moving programs like those forward. Finally, the commission has a bunch of different tools to engage with people, learn about their issues and concerns, and work to address them. For example, the commission will hold public meetings at least once a month. It can require the police superintendent or COPA chief or police board president to come in and talk about issues and answer questions in the commission's meetings. And it can conduct research and publish reports and hold hearings on important issues. The focus today is on the Community Commission, but I also want to talk briefly about another key part of this new oversight and accountability and public safety system that's being created, and Alderman Osterman and the mayor also made mention of this. Starting next year, district councils will be created in each of the city's 22 police districts. They'll be made up of 3 people in each district, elected in municipal elections in February. The district councils will have several key roles, and they include building stronger connections between the police and the community at the district level, holding monthly public meetings where residents can work with the police on local initiatives rooted in community concerns and priorities. They can also raise and work to address concerns about policing in the district and increase accountability. And they'll ensure that the commission gets input from the community so that the commission's work will be based on what people in neighborhoods across the city are most concerned about. People who are interested in running for district council can start gathering petitions tomorrow, and we'll be talking a lot more about that process in the weeks ahead. And after district council members have been elected and seated, they'll lead a process to select a permanent community commission. There will be an open application process. The district councils will review the applicants and nominate 14 people to serve on the permanent commission. Then the mayor will choose 7 of them for the permanent commission, and the city council will vote on whether to confirm them. Once that process wraps up, that permanent commission will replace this interim commission probably sometime in the fall of 2023. Thank you very much.
And Adam's happy to take your questions.
We're going to do two questions. Start with one topic first, if you have one, and start with Greg Delmore.
Hello,
Dr.
Mayor.
Craig?
My on-topic question is, how will new policies or changes in policy, how will that generate? How will the commission actually be able to get that idea and make it real?
Well, if you look at the folks that are in the interim commission, these are folks who are very much involved in their community, very much involved in a lot of issues around police reform and accountability, but also just quality of life issues in neighborhoods. I don't think there's going to be any shortage of ideas from the commission on how they want to do things. Now, the challenge is going to be making sure that there's a process for collaboration and feedback between the commission and whichever department they're choosing to affect with any new policy. And also just making sure that those really are vetted by the public writ large. And that's something, again, I don't want to presume to dictate, but, what we've been doing, for example, through the consent decree process is when we come up with a policy, you put it out for public review and comment for a certain period of time. The public weighs in, you take that feedback in, and then you move on from there. That seems to me a very reasonable and transparent way to do it, but these commissioners will make their own decisions about how they want to set up those policies and procedures and practices.
Okay, and my off-topic question is not that far off topic. Do you have any response to the IG's findings that essentially said there were more times when officers were working long weeks than it might have been believed earlier?
Yeah, I have not had an opportunity to dig into the details of that, and I will. But what I will say is that, we know that we've got to make sure that there is a process by which officers have time off. Tired, emotionally wrought officers, not good for them, not good for their families, and not good, frankly, for the community members that they're serving. So there's been a lot of conversation about this issue for the past several weeks, and it's my expectation that we'll be moving forward with a new set of policies so that there's more predictability and certainty over what those days off look like.
Karen, you're the line.
Hi.
Hi there.
What does staffing look like for the commission right now? And I know there were 14 positions, I believe, budgeted. Correct me if I'm wrong, but is that enough to hit the ground running September 1st?
I'm going to defer to the executive director, who's been working feverishly on filling positions. Go ahead.
Thank you. I've been working feverishly to fill positions.
Smart guy.
There are a number of positions that have been filled. They're still in sort of the formal city process. A bunch more that will be filled over the course of the next 2 months. I think by the end of the year, we'll certainly be at the 14, and we're in discussions now as part of the city budgeting process to determine what the staff will be for next year. But an additional part of the answer to Craig's question is that there is a very robust staff to support the work of the commission and also the district councils who will support their efforts working in collaboration with the police department and COPA and the police board to set policy.
So how many have been hired currently? I mean, how many have been hired today?
3. I suspect there will be 2 more by the end of, in addition to me, sorry, 4. I am apparently a person. 4.
We'll ask your kids if that's true.
And what will the first task be? I know the mayor mentioned laying the groundwork for this commission. It's the first of its kind. But what happens September 1st? Do you work on budget stuff, or what does that look like?
That'll be for members of the commission to determine. There, as I laid out in my remarks, there are a number of things that they're required to do every year. For example, they need to identify candidates to fill vacancies on the police board, and there are currently some vacancies on the police board, so they'll need to turn to that immediately. They're supposed to review and weigh in on the police department budget, and we will soon be in the middle of the budget process, so they'll need to turn to that almost immediately. So there will certainly be a focus on those things that are required by the ordinance to ensure that they meet their obligations under the ordinance, and then beyond that, it will be for them to determine.
Mr. Gross, could you stay at the microphone? One question for you, and then the mayor, I have a second question. What do you say to those that argue that the commission doesn't have enough teeth, given that the mayor can veto policies, hiring, and firing? From where you sit, how do those criticisms hit your ear?
The commission is like any other body that legislates anywhere in the country. Every city council, every state legislature, United States Congress, their decisions are subject to vetoes, and there are also procedures for overriding those vetoes. This is no different. Those are appropriate checks and balances. They're appropriate here, and I imagine they'll operate just as they do in other deliberative democratic bodies across the country.
Mayor, question for you.
If I can just
Please.
add on to that, sometimes when I stand behind here and listen to the questions, we immediately go to the points of conflict. This shouldn't be focused on that. If this commission is going to have any legitimacy, what it ought to be about is not a rubber stamp, no one wants that, but building consensus. If it's just another point of conflict in the political landscape, people will write it off as worthless. We can't have that happen. There has been a lot of time and effort for years. You heard the timeline. And I think Chairman Osterman is right. This really comes out of the tragic murder of Laquan McDonald. We have an opportunity to do something different and frankly prove the skeptics wrong by making sure that this commission has real legitimacy. And that's why I said before, and I said to each of these folks individually, they are being handled a very important part of the public trust. That doesn't come easily, but it can be lost easily. So we shouldn't be focused on the points of conflict. We should be focusing on the parts where we can reach common ground, where we can show to our residents that they have a voice and that these interim commissioners and then the subsequent permanent commission can be that body that rises above the noise and gets the people's work done. That's what the focus should be on.
If I can press you on that, though, when you talk about not trying to underline and emphasize the conflict, I hear what you're saying. You don't want it to be white noise. But there are so many occasions that our team at CBS has interviewed you about conflict between the policies that are already on the books and the policies that aren't being followed. So many of the wrong raids, the police cameras, body cameras, et
And what
cetera.
have we done every single time that
I understand.
we have seen it, or
I haven't
the
asked my
public has seen
question.
it? No, but let me just follow up here. Every single time where we have seen that there has been an issue, and we go back and we look at our policies and procedures to see, are they right, but the execution didn't work, or does a policy need to be redone? I would say in the last 3.5+ years, and I will let you ask your question, we have done more to look at ourselves, to re-examine policies and procedures, the pursuit policy, the search warrant policy, the foot pursuit, the car pursuit, the foot pursuit, search warrant, the big things that really directly affect people's lives. We haven't been shy about saying we need to do better, and we have done that. I interrupted you.
That's okay. I guess the question is more about, this is a commission that's focused on new policy and amending policy, but following existing policy is really critical to those things you just enumerated. How do these two things jibe?
Well, note the word accountability in the name of the interim commission. They're going to have the ability to listen to the public, listen to the media, and where they see that there are things that are lacking, bring whoever the necessary party is to the table and ask hard questions in public. That's the whole point of the accountability piece. But accountability to members of the public and our residents, but also everyone who heads up one of these agencies, whether it's COPA, whether it's the police board, the police department, of course, they all understand public accountability. They face it every single day. This is just going to be in a slightly different form than what they have historically been in front of. So I feel very confident. Look, when you have a police department that roughly has 12,000, 13,000 sworn members, and then a larger number when you add in the civilians, that's a large organization. And you set the tone at the top, you have the rules and procedures, you do the training, but there are always going to be issues. That's just the nature of I think, ourselves as humans. Nobody is going to be 100% perfect. I can't think of a single organization that I've ever been associated with or known, including the media, that gets it right every time. But what our goal should be is to strive towards being as good and as responsive as possible. People are going to understand when you fall short. If you own it, you accept it, and then you try to improve yourself from it. But perfection isn't a realistic goal. What is a realistic goal is making sure that this interim commission has what it needs to be successful, if defined by changing the landscape around bringing the public voices to the table around reform and accountability.
Good
How
afternoon,
are you?
Mayor. The on-topic question involves the full commission once it is constituted and you elect members. Do you have any concern that it'll be hard to find enough qualified, interested people who will want to be doing this job in the future?
Well, look, as all of us can attest, doing the people's work isn't easy. And there aren't a lot of folks that are stepping up and raising their hand. That's why I think it is so incredibly commendable that these folks have. I think the task of the interim commission is going to be to make sure, A, that we get great people at the DAC level. That's going to be important. And that we do the work of advertising and reaching out and engagement to make sure that people know this is something different. This is something new. You can't be on the sidelines complaining. Get in the game and be a part of making the change at the district level and maybe on even serving on the commission. So yeah, there's going to be work to do. And coming as it does in a municipal election where there's already a lot of sound and fury and noise, we got to make sure that we set folks up for success. And I'm certainly going to do my part. I know the members of the city council, led by Chairman Osterman and Chairman Chaliaferro and Alderwoman Mitz and all the others that you heard from, we all have a lot of stake in this game to make sure that this commission is successful. And obviously, we want to make sure that they are independent in doing their work, but it is a symbiotic relationship, and we've got to do what we can to set them up for success, and I'm committed to doing just that.
I will seize on the word sound, fury, and noise from my off-topic question, which involves the street takeovers we saw over the
Yeah.
weekend. Chicago police here, they have a plan in place, they have a task force in place. Do you think it's going to be enough? And what do you want to say to those residents who see these street takeovers form in front of their buildings and say it takes half an hour or so for the police to get involved and to break it all up?
Look, I think we all recognize that this phenomenon that isn't unique to Chicago is having real impact. And we've been talking about it for some time now in my weekly meetings with CPD, recognizing that we've got to use data. These folks are very crafty. It's not like they put out an all-points bulletin that's very obvious for people to see that they're doing these car meetups. They've started using very sophisticated means to hide the information from the police because they know that we're looking. So we've got to get and continue to look at ways in which we can be more proactive to see these things as they're coming, but then, of course, once they happen, to respond immediately. And, you know, as the superintendent said earlier today, I'm confident, based upon the information that we have, the videotaped information, the license plate information, we are going to be making some arrests in the coming days. But we need to also make sure that we're being collaborative with our regional partners, because a lot of this is led by people that don't even live in Chicago and in some instances don't even live in Illinois. So this is a much more complicated problem than I think sometimes it would seem at first blush, but we're very focused on doing it because what I'm concerned about is not only the harm that's being done to area residents, and that is a harm for sure that we want to make sure that we eliminate, but one of these cars that spins out of control, somebody's going to lose their life. That's what I'm really worried about.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi there.
The ordinance that was passed in July of 2021 to create the commission called for the interim commission to be formed 8 months ago. Is that delay an indication of a lack of commitment on your part or the administration's part to giving this board real authority over the police department?
Absolutely not. I got the list 2 months ago, and here they are. I think, look, what I would say is I know the city council put together a very thoughtful and rigorous process. Many of these people were interviewed multiple times, so I don't think it's a lack of commitment on the part of anyone, quite the opposite. We could have just done a paper release, but we felt like this was so important that we wanted to make sure that we were coming here and letting members of the public know by me standing here and talking about it and really imploring the commission members in public that this is something that's really important.
We heard last week that there are more vacancies in the clinician positions in each Chicago Police District than there are filled positions, and that your budget last year expanded the number of those positions, but the department has not been able to fill them. Is that a
So I just want to make sure I clarify. You said we've heard that there are more vacancies in the district commissions. I don't think that's what you meant.
No, I meant the clinicians.
Oh, clinicians, sorry.
Clinicians,
I didn't
yes.
hear you correctly.
Those positions have been hard to fill,
Yeah,
and
they
that
have.
a number of them are vacant. Are you concerned that that has left officers unable to get the mental health care that they need? And is there something more you can do, perhaps through the 2023 budget, to increase the pay for those positions to ensure they get filled?
Well, I'm not concerned. We may obviously do everything that we can to make sure that our officers have full access to wellness resources. This is on top of, obviously, what they can get through private insurance, and we're certainly encouraging them. We have hired some. We've stood up EAP access in neighborhoods, frankly, that are frequented by Chicago police officers in the neighborhoods that they live. But yeah, you're 100% right. Like with almost every other industry that you can name, there has been difficulty filling those clinician positions. My sense is from my conversations with Dr. Sobel and folks in the police department, this is not necessarily a budgeting issue, meaning raising the compensation, although we are looking at that. This is hard work. And frankly, given the national tenor around policing, you got to find the right people who are going to be empathetic to the challenges that police officers face every single day. But I'm confident that we are continuing to make progress.
Mayor, off topic, but
Yeah,
public
sure.
safety related. Back to the IG report about police working the extra days. The IG in an interview with my colleague said she'd like to say more, but she can't because of the state of data and how it's stored. How concerned are you about record keeping over at CPD? Obviously, overtime and extra work is always big and controversial. It sounds like she says that that data is not well maintained.
Well, I'm not sure I agree with that. But look, the reality is we've inherited an IT system and infrastructure within the city that hasn't been upgraded since the Daley years. That's a huge problem. So we are taking the first big steps in this year's budget to make sure that we invest in our internal IT infrastructure. And we have too many departments where systems don't talk to each other. We have too many departments that have legacy systems that the manufacturers don't even support. So we've got to do a lot more about making sure that we shore up our internal IT infrastructure. It's always nice when the IG talks in public about an issue instead of talking directly to us, but maybe Ms. Witzberg will give us the benefit of talking to us directly.
Also, Matt O'Shea is using micro-grant money to hire private unarmed security to patrol business corridors in the Beverly neighborhood. In the past, you've raised concerns about private security during the work of Chicago police officers. Has your position on that changed?
No, it hasn't changed. I have great concerns about private security officers acting like or passing themselves off as CPD officers, particularly when those private security companies are hiring off-duty Chicago police officers. Look, I get the concerns, absolutely, but there's got to be communication and not unilateral action, particularly when, if those are off-duty Chicago police officers, if something goes wrong, guess who gets sued? Guess who's going to be on the hook? So I do have great concerns about that. We've faced this issue in wealthier neighborhoods across the city, and all I've ever asked, and will keep saying, is you've got to be in communication with us. Acting unilaterally is a recipe for disaster. I don't know enough details about what Alderman O'Shea has done, but it's not an answer particularly if you're not acting in collaboration with the police department, because only people who have authority under state law to patrol our streets are Chicago police officers, no one else.
Also
Welcome
spoke
back.
to, thank you, Alderman O'Shea, who referred to what happened outside the 22nd Police District as activity by urban terrorists. Can you speak to the brazenness of what happened there, shots fired at people pulling into a police station, and what more, if anything, can be done to stop this kind of activity?
Well, obviously, I'm not going to use that language, and I won't adopt that language, and I don't think that that's necessary. Obviously, any shooting anywhere is a problem. Any shooting that endangers life and limb is a problem. Any shooting that endangers the life of our police officers is a problem, period.
So if they're not urban terrorists, how would you describe what kind of
Well,
activity?
I'm not
is
going
it?
to, I'm not going to get into that game. I think I told you what my feeling is. It's a problem. And I'm not going to label them with that kind of inflammatory language, and I'm not going to take the bait to do that with you. It's not appropriate. I don't believe that that's appropriate. What is appropriate is we've got to keep doing the work of holding violent, dangerous people accountable, no matter where they are, no matter what part of the city they're in.
And if we can just ask, with this interim commission, how, if people are looking at this and saying, great, we want reform, which people do, but people right now are very concerned about safety, practically speaking, what is this commission going to be able to do to actually improve the safety with the drag racing, the drifting, the shootings
Well,
like this?
Look, a fundamental part of improving safety is having the people in the community believe that the police are legitimate forces for good. And that's a huge issue all over our city, particularly in our black and brown neighborhoods. So I think one of the most important things that this interim commission can do is listen to people's concerns, make sure that those concerns are heard, and translate those concerns into concrete, positive actions, and hold the whole panoply of public safety entities in our city accountable. I want to hear from what this commission has to say, and particularly when we hear from residents about what their immediate concerns are. We have got to get more people in this city involved and engaged at the block level about what's happening. What we have right now is these divisions, right? Warring factions almost, where you've got the residents on one side, you've got the police on the other side. That doesn't work to help public safety. Yes, we've taken, I think, some pretty specific strides towards each other, but the bridge has not been completely, that divide has not been bridged. We've got to keep taking steps towards each other and making sure that the community voices are heard. We've had CAPS in the city and community policing since the 90s. We've had a number of other means, but we still keep hearing from residents, I don't know what's going on. I don't have any idea of how I can influence the level of safety in my block. That is one of the most crucial pieces, in my view, of what this interim commission can do. So it is, there's no separation between what communities' needs are and the immediate translation into public safety. So for example, you brought up the drifting and drag racing issue. We need community members who know that these things are being talked about out there. We need them to feel comfortable to tell us proactively, hey, this is supposed to be happening in this location. The same thing with people know in communities where are guns being housed, who are the dangerous people on a block in a neighborhood. And, we know that people stepping up and giving that information puts them at risk, but we need the community to be all in for public safety. I don't want people in this city to just feel victimized. I also don't want people in the city to feel like they can stand on the sideline and just lob bombs. Everybody has a role to play. Everybody has a role to play. And when that happens, we get to that point, I think we're going to see a significant leaps forward in public safety. And this commission's got to be a big part of that.
Can I get some more back?
Well, he has a follow-up. Go ahead.
Because you're talking about getting people involved. What role do the TikToks and you know, the Instagrams that are posting all these different
Yeah.
videos do? I mean, these are clear violations of the law. Should these not, if these are taken down and there's people to watch them, then what's the attraction of them? It's diminished, right? I mean, should the police department,
So-
the police department working with them to try to get these taken down?
So you're trying to trigger me, aren't you?
No.
No, I'm being somewhat facetious. I think the lack of responsibility on the part of social media companies, who absolutely know exactly the kind of things that are being posted, their failure to be proactive in addressing these issues, to work proactively with law enforcement, is an absolute abomination. I'm one who believes that the federal government has to step up and regulate every single one of these platforms. Whether it's selling guns on social media, brazenly and openly, and nothing's being done about it. Whether it's this kind of thing, advertising things that clearly threaten public safety. Whether it's violence against women, whether it's child pornography. There is a whole marketplace of illegal activity that is going on every single day on social media, and these social media companies absolutely have the ability to regulate what's happening on their platforms. This isn't a question of First Amendment rights. This is a question of public safety for our kids and for our communities. And if these social media companies continue to frankly stiff arm us and not own their responsibility, it's going to be an even worse problem. Many of the things that we see with young people ending in gunfire and violence, you know where they start? They start on social media. They start on social media. And the other corollary to that is, and again, this is where I think this interim commission can play a really big role, people in the community see it and know about it. They've got to act. We can't be silent. If we are silent, we are complicit. And that is a huge problem. But social media, for all the good that it does, it is a huge challenge for public safety. It's a huge challenge for our democracy, and they need to be held accountable.
Good afternoon. So this weekend, I'm sure you've heard or seen the startling footage of 6 police cars being damaged during these drifting incidents.
Yes.
And a police officer almost died at the corner of Columbus and Wacker by getting hit by trying to stop it. So you have people that are throwing bricks, rocks, fireworks. They even uprooted a tree and threw a tree in a police officer. Is this commission and district councils, are they going to help protect police or change, the attitude of people in Chicago toward police? Because they are under attack.
Look, I think, frankly, with respect to that, the first and foremost thing that we've got to do is make sure that we hold those people that are doing that work accountable in a public way. That is the way that we have to do that. We cannot let these people who have no regard for public safety, no regard for the sanctity of life, because you're not doing that if you care about the life of yourself or somebody else. We've got to hold them accountable, period. That is the most important thing. And you're 100% right. We got police officers out there literally risking life and limb with these idiots who are driving in the most reckless of ways. I want to see some people getting charged. I want to see some accountability in the court system. That is how, when we start doing that we're going to start to see some of this stuff dissipate. Now, I don't want to get too deep into the CPD strategy, but we've got to be even more proactive in shutting this stuff down. As I said, they become very sophisticated. This isn't just a posting on Facebook. I don't want people to be misled. These are secret, private, confidential posting where you only get the information if you got the right password and things like that. So we've got to make sure that we send a loud and clear message that if you are a leader of this, if you're engaged in this activity, we must hold you accountable. That's the role of the Chicago Police Department.
But will this commission help with changing people's minds
Well,
about
I hope
police?
so. I think there's a long laundry list of issues that this commission needs to take on and starting to, I think, win back the public trust and legitimacy. But they will clearly be a forum for some of these new emerging issues. But in the first instance, the police department must work collaboratively with our regional partners, with our federal partners, find these people and hold them accountable. And my hope is that when an arrest is made, charges are made, that the judges are going to hold them accountable as well.
All right, last week, this is a follow-up to the conversation we had last week about the super PAC that has that Summer of
Yeah.
Joy ad. LaShawn Ford, black Democrat representing the West Side, took offense. He said, quote, "I don't need anybody saying the darker you look, the more dangerous you are." What is your response to him and to other African Americans who are upset that
I don't think-
implied that you're saying dark is scarier?
I don't think I understood the question.
LaShawn Ford saw your response, and he said that he, quote, "I don't need anybody saying the darker you look, the more dangerous you are." He took
I
offense.
don't even know what to say in response to that. Some group that intentionally darkens my complexion and then shows a bunch of images of supposedly black men from Chicago engaging in criminal activity to a mostly white suburban audience. If you're not offended by that, I don't know what to say to you.
Last two in the back, Mallory.
Hello, Mayor.
there.
I just had a question about how this commission would work with aldermen. So for some community members in Chicago, maybe they don't know their alderman or they won't go to their alderman. And maybe they prefer their Facebook community page. Is this commission going to be working with residents to kind of function as an in-between to aldermen and residents and then communicate to CPD? If the community member is complaining about an alderman online, maybe, is the commission the person for them to go to if they feel like they're not getting support from their alderman or they don't know? What is the relationship with the commission?
That's what elections are for. If community members have an issue with their alderman, they should vote. But the commission's primary mission is to make sure that community voices around public safety are being heard. That's their primary mission. So, again, Adam may want to elaborate on that, but this isn't about pitting the commission members against aldermen. This isn't supplanting the work that aldermen are doing on a regular basis and setting up their community town halls. This limited but really broad topic is about bringing community voices to the table to talk about public safety, community safety, literally on a district by district, ward by ward, block by block basis. That's what this commission is about. And then the other piece of that is bringing the community voices in, but the other piece is holding accountability. And as you heard from Director Gross, there's a number of tools baked into the ordinance itself, which is around accountability and tools that this commission can use to make sure that accountability is meaningful and real. But I think in the first instance, and I don't want to necessarily speak for the commission, there's a lot of logistical work that has to be done. It's budget season. They've got to be looking at and weighing in not only on their own budget, but the police department budget and the budget of the other organizations over which they have oversight. There's a lot of interim work that needs to be done. And then thinking about how is it on a monthly basis that they're going to be engaged, a minimum of a monthly basis that they're going to be engaging with members of the community. There's a lot of big decisions that have to be made in a short period of time for them to get this interim commission up and running. Adam, I don't know if you want to add to that. You don't have to. Sure.
I just add, I think, to your question, the work that happens at the district level will be significantly the purpose of these district councils that will be created next year. So 3 people elected in each police district, which doesn't just mean those are 3 people doing all the work in those districts. Their role is to engage as many people as possible in those communities to do precisely the kind of work that the mayor has been describing.
Okay, thank you. And then my off topic is just talking about the Chicago Board of Elections bringing down the district number. Do you have, could
You mean
city
the
council?
precinct numbers?
Yes, the precinct
Okay.
numbers. Can city council get involved? Can you get involved?
The-
Is
the-
more than 700 precincts too many for polling places to be closed?
So the thing that you should know is that the Chicago Board of Elections is not subject to the jurisdiction of the mayor or the city council. We provide some funding, but so does the county and others. The Chicago Board of Election is a wholly independent body created under state law, and the Board of Electors are all appointed by the chief judge of Cook County. So I wish I had more influence over them, but I do not. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not concerned about the elimination of precincts and so forth. Look, I think I need to understand better, and we've reached out to them about why they have made the decisions that they're making, what their plan is. I know from really starting with the first election back in March of 2020 that was run at the height of COVID. These are very challenging times for boards of election all across the country, not just something that's unique to Chicago. I know then, and I think this continues to be an issue, if you look at the primary workforce for elections, it is mostly volunteer, mostly seniors, and a lot of those people do not want to be in an environment now, given COVID, where they are potentially exposing themselves to members of the public that are coming in at large. I also know that a number of the places that used to be polling places across our city have also said equally, like schools, like other community places, thanks for the memories, but we want to make sure that our buildings are also pristine, and we don't want to, we no longer want to be polling places. Again, I'm basing that based upon previous conversations with the Board of Elections, where frankly, we had to come in and help support them to be able to pull off elections. But, it would have been better, of course, if they had been proactive and communicating this and not just doing it. And now they're under fire and people are confused about who actually makes the decisions. I can assure you it's not me, it's not the city council, because we would have done this in a very different way. But I think they've got to explain themselves to the public and make sure that with this fall election that's coming up in November, that there are adequate places for people to be able to go and vote in every neighborhood. We are living in a time where people, and rightfully so, are super sensitive about anything related to voting and polling places in the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois, and particularly in our city, where we are deep midlight blue. The last thing that we should be about is shutting down opportunities for people to be able to vote. Now, having said that, there's been a lot more people who have taken advantage of early voting and have taken advantage also of vote by mail. So maybe that is part of the justification, I don't know. But whatever it is, they need to explain it, and they need to be transparent about it as quickly as possible.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.